Those in Peril by Margaret Mayhew. Read by Kim Hicks. Chapter 1. The news was very bad. In spite of the beautiful weather, Louis Duval had spent the spring of 1940 indoors in his studio, painting the view of the Pont-Aven quayside from the window. In that way, he could listen to the bulletins on the wireless while he worked. His eyes directed outside, his ears attuned inside to the babble of news being broadcast, interspersed optimistically with dance music. At the beginning of June, he realised that the battle for France was all but over. By then, most of the communiques being broadcast were out of date and unreliable, and there was no advice from the government to the people on what they should do next. From the talk and rumours circulating like wildfire in the bars and cafes in the town, he knew that there were still plenty who clung euphorically to hope. But he was not among them. The facts, as he saw them, were unpleasantly clear. Holland and Denmark had been taken, and the Belgian king had handed over his country on a plate. Thanks to that unexpected betrayal, the Germans had since surrounded most of the British expeditionary force in northern France, and the British had been attempting the near-impossible feat of rescuing their trapped army by sea. Those of the French forces not trapped with them were, with some honourable exceptions, in disarray and panic. The remnants of the British army still fighting elsewhere in France were being overrun by the German panzer divisions, steamrollering merrily across the country. The battle for the Somme had been lost. Within weeks, perhaps even days, all remaining resistance would collapse. He had no doubt that an armistice was already being sought by certain members of the government, and that, in the end, some kind of shameful deal would be struck with Nazi Germany in the name of France. By the second week in June, he had reached a decision. He cleaned his brushes and put away his paints. At the foot of the stairs, his landlady, Mademoiselle Citron, intercepted him. "Have you heard, monsieur? The Boches are at Rouen. It is a disaster." The more terrible the news, the more gratified she looked. He guessed that she was probably already wondering how much she would be able to charge to billet members of the occupation forces. A German officer or two of the old-fashioned Prussian school would suit her nicely, well-behaved, clean and tidy, and prompt with the rent. A far more appealing option than any of the ragtag French refugees reported to be streaming towards Brittany with their belongings piled high on carts and wheelbarrows. Louis himself rented the whole top floor of the house from her, a very large studio, bedroom, bathroom and kitchen. The daylight was excellent, the views delightful, and it suited him admirably, or he might have taken the trouble to look elsewhere for a more congenial logeuse. Mademoiselle was a businesswoman before all else. It was difficult to place her age, somewhere in the mid-40s, he judged. Unattractive, with a sallow skin, a thin mouth, poor teeth, and a sour disposition. It was a nice irony that birth had bestowed on her such a suitable name, Miss Lemon. When he had first rented the attic rooms from her, she'd kept coming up the stairs on this and that flimsy excuse, until he had finally realised wearily what she was hoping for. He had rebuffed her as politely as possible, but knew he had not been forgiven for the slight. Nor, he suspected, for the fact that he had never shown any interest in painting her, with or without her clothes on. There was a rich fund of far more interesting subjects in and around Pont-Aven. She was eyeing him now, speculatively. "Will you be staying, monsieur?" He had been right. She was thinking about accommodating the Germans. "I'll let you know, mademoiselle." "As soon as possible," she called after him. "I need to know how I am placed." He caught the next train for Paris, travelling via Rennes. After Rennes, the compartment was empty except for a little old nun huddled in the corner like a bundle of black rags, her veiled head bent low over a prayer book. Bent so low that her nose almost touched the pages. He smoked and watched the Breton scenery passing by. Woods, lakes, streams, apple orchards, stone farmhouses embedded for centuries in the landscape, cows grazing, tethered goats, and then dozed for a while. When he woke up later, they were on the outskirts of Paris. The nun had put away her prayer book and was sitting with her gnarled hands folded neatly in her lap. Her face was pale as parchment and webbed with fine lines. He smiled at her. "It seems not many of us are in a hurry to go to Paris these days, sister." She looked at him serenely. "I go where God sends me, monsieur." At the Gare Montparnasse, he had to elbow
Sample complete. Ready to continue?